Today we're going to be reacting to the Jubilee episode where I hosted a debate between liberals and conservatives on should minors transition. So let's get.
Antidepressants weren't working. We'd been to every single therapist and nothing was touching it until we used he, him pronouns.
I don't even know where to start here. Sex is not assigned at birth, it's established at conception.
So you know what's funny is that like that intro, they made me do it like 3-4 times. So just like this like reaction video where we started, it is not always what you see on the edits, right? More takes that go behind.
We have to get to biology here.
Today we're bringing a new version of Middle Ground. We'll be exploring the topic should.
Yo, that's pretty hard. That's pretty hard, isn't it? That's a pretty hard shot. I ain't gonna lie. I know I'm just stroking my ego at this point, but
Minors be allowed to medically transition. We'll be introducing an.
That's pretty sick. I'm like, I also match with like the chairs. Did you guys just notice that?
Undecided group, and they'll be listening to a discussion between liberals and conservatives, and the undecided group will pick a side after each prompt.
Chad, I would love to hear your thoughts on the format, by the way.
Transitioning has become a social media trend.
Absolutely. And also what you guys think about all
it is
this.
just skyrocketing, the amount of children that you see falling into this, and we need to stop it.
Absolutely not. People said the same thing about people coming out being lesbian, gay, or bisexual as it got more normalized, as people became more accepting of like their children.
So one thing to remember too is that whenever they do like these Jubilee things, right? You know how there's always a lot of prompts. They don't always do it in order, but if I remember correctly, this was actually the first prompt that we sat down and did. So you'll also see too, because this was like the first time we were doing this, we're getting a lot of like kinks out, but I think things get more comfortable as the prompts progress.
Children and things like that, they're like, everybody wants to be gay. Now social media is around, people my age, like we see other trans people, and being aware that that's something that's being accepted by other people makes you more comfortable with yourself and like comfortable with like internalizing that it's okay to be trans in public.
I think you're falling prey to the survivorship bias, which is just sort of, you're overlooking all of the cases of people who either weren't able to come out because they weren't comfortable or safe to do so, or they either died due to suicide or other mental health reasons. But over time, if you look at left-handedness, that skyrocketed in a similar rate as people became more accepting to it.
I reject that, but.
I mean, that's a fair point in the sense that like anytime like anything becomes more socially acceptable, obviously it's going to be a lot easier for people to identify with that, right? Like, for example, I don't know, let's say wearing purple was considered a sin and, you know, there's a lot of taboo behind it. But then as that becomes more accepting and becomes like the cool thing to do, obviously a lot more people are going to naturally gravitate that. Right? There's always going to be rebels or people who kind of like go against the grain that will do it regardless. But just like in anything to become like more socially acceptable, slowly by slowly, right, those rebels start influencing the people that are, you know, the general public, which will then, you know, start adopting that. That happens in like fashion all the time, right? Just how like, you know, fashion trends like cycle. The people who are actually setting that are like these hipsters and New York or Tokyo or wherever it might be, who's like always like pushing the grain and trying to do something different. But then that eventually gets picked up by like the big brands like H&M, which essentially then, you know, promoted to like the masses. So that's always happening in like the world of fashion. I'm not comparing transgenderism to fashion, but I think that makes sense in terms of the principle that she's laying out.
Let me ask you something. If that's the case, if more people are transitioning simply because it's more acceptable, then how can your side also say that there's a trans genocide happening? Those are completely opposite. No,
that's a fair point.
I know you didn't, but liberals say that all the time. They're saying that there's a trans genocide for some reason. So I'm just curious as to how you would square that circle.
Can we define what the trans genocide, I guess, narrative is as raised by her?
I would like her to answer that because she's the one that brought it up.
Yeah, because so we hear people saying simply because.
I think one thing to also take note as you guys watch this is like who's able to also articulate their points in a way where it could actually lead to someone changing their mind, right? There's a in being very passionate about your beliefs, but also delivering in a way that can actually lead to change. You could be saying the smartest shit ever, but if you're brash and abrasive about it, it's going to be very, very hard to change someone who might be on the complete opposite side of you. And I think Sarah does a really, really good job of conveying her points, even if she doesn't agree with someone, you know, with the blue side or the liberals, right?
Look at the product that he was supposed to be promoting. It has fallen into.
Her pronouns are she, her.
And with all
This
due
sounds
respect,
to me
it
like the
isn't
people who are
phobic to
following them
speak
are
the
y'all and
truth.
not the youth.
Okay.
That's not a phobia.
Let's
Telling
stop
the
here.
truth is not a phobia.
Let's stop here
It's not a
and
mental
let's go over to the undecided group.
Yeah, so you guys, like, I had to like moderate this one, right? Like, obviously, you know, what's also interesting about these debates that I learned is that, you know, unfortunately, it's usually the most assertive or loud voice that's going to be able to potentially win debates because they're going to have more at bats or they're going to be able to have more airtime. One thing that I was focusing on, and you guys will see how it really shifted, is making sure that both sides get to talk. Because let's be honest, right? For now, at least in this round that you saw, you guys probably saw that the conservatives were a lot more like assertive or had points to talk about, whereas the liberals were maybe a little bit more reactionary. So you guys will see, like, this. Let me know in feedback too if I was able to like moderate that to ensure that both are able to get open air. And again, right, this was the exact like first prompt that we filmed. So
It doesn't help. It doesn't solve these issues. It shows it's a contagion. That is the key word.
Let's pause there then. What are your guys' thoughts on, let's say, that's a
okay, so this was really, really weird to me that they censor this because the fact of the matter is she is a public figure. So I don't understand the just for censoring it. And you'll also even see too, I think they even forgot to censor the name in another in just a moment here when they bring it up. But it's Dylan Mulvaney. I talked about how, what do you guys think about Dylan Mulvaney, right? She is, you know, recently won the, I guess, like the Streamies as one of the most influential content creators of the year. Like, has she had a part in maybe, you know, influencing the youth to maybe want to transition? Like, just bringing it up as like as a point, right? I don't know why they censor that. She's a public figure. Like, that doesn't make anything to me. What is she, Voldemort? Like, come on.
pretty popular figure that's been mentioned when it comes to a social media influencer that has risen to fame because of that.
She's just doing what she's doing. I don't think that she's doing anything wrong.
Okay, he.
Do you think that
Her
has...
pronouns are she, her.
That's transphobic.
Do you think that has...
I mean, come on. Like, you have to be like that. I mean, okay. I mean, that's his beliefs. That's his beliefs.
inspired trans kids?
I think she's also inspired allies to see the human being behind the pronouns and the makeup and the dress, and to see that there's someone who is going through a story, and that watching her go through that story enabled us to see the humanity behind her.
He is degrading women. You see a great disregard. I mean,
Yeah, what do you guys think? Obviously, like, a very controversial figure. I mean, or else Jubilee wouldn't have, I guess, censored it. But what do you guys think? Do you think that, you know, she been a positive influence in terms of just sharing her story? And, you know, I'm sure there's also youth that might be experiencing similar things or been thinking similar things, or not just youth, but maybe even adults, right? Or do you think she's, I guess, in Arthur's point, is she like making a mockery of women? I'm curious what y'all think.
look at the product that he was supposed to be promoting. It has fallen into.
Her pronouns are she, her.
And with all
This
due
sounds
respect,
to me
it
like the
isn't
people who are
phobic to
following them
speak
are
the
y'all and
truth.
not the youth.
Okay.
That's not a phobia.
Let's
Telling
stop
the
here.
truth is not a phobia.
Let's stop here
It's not a
and
mental
let's go over to the undecided group.
Yeah, so you guys, like, I had to like moderate this one, right? Like, obviously, you know, what's also interesting about these debates that I learned is that, you know, unfortunately, it's usually the most assertive or loud voice that's going to be able to potentially win debates because they're going to have more at bats or they're going to be able to have more airtime. One thing that I was focusing on, and you guys will see how it really shifted, is making sure that both sides get to talk. Because let's be honest, right? For now, at least in this round that you saw, you guys probably saw that the conservatives were a lot more like assertive or had points to talk about, whereas the liberals were maybe a little bit more reactionary. So you guys will see, like, this. Let me know in feedback too if I was able to like moderate that to ensure that both are able to get open air. And again, right, this was the exact like first prompt that we filmed. So.